Hi, eBay sellers. It's Suzanne A. Wells, and welcome to episode number 43 of eBay the Right Way. Today's guest is Amy Decker, and from the title, you can see that she was an early adopter of eBay, and her best advice is don't go for the obvious. So let's get into the chat with Amy. Today's guest is Amy Decker, that you may know from Facebook as Amy Crane Decker, because us ladies use our maiden names so people from our past can find us. And so how are you this Saturday morning, Amy?
I'm doing well. It's cold, but I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
And where are you located?
I'm in Pennsylvania in the Lehigh Valley area.
Okay. Is that Lehigh Cement?
Very close to there. Yes, we are about an hour northwest of Philly. So,
well, that's interesting because my dad worked for Lehigh.
Okay.
Back in the late 60s, early 70s. And we had all these notepads in our basement that said, don't forget Lehigh. It's a cement company.
Yeah.
And we used those around our house for years, like for phone messages and leaving notes and all. Isn't that a strange coincidence?
Yes. And that is very collectible ephemera in this area. So if you ever post those on eBay, they will sell.
Oh, they're long gone now, but I'll look for them again. It's spelled Lehigh.
That's correct. Yes. Right by the Lehigh University in that area.
Okay. Very interesting. Well, he went on to take a job with Dow Chemical, and that's what got us to Atlanta back in 1968. So I don't think I've ever come across anybody that knew what Lehigh Cement was.
Well, I absolutely do. So
how about that?
You met someone.
How about that? That's interesting. Okay. You guys had a weather event this week.
We did. We got our first snowfall, and it wasn't huge, but it was enough to be a little bit of a nuisance. And I couldn't get to my rummage sale that started at 8. I couldn't get there early. I got there after it opened, which was a little frustrating. Roads were not cleared. Thank goodness I have a Jeep. But it hopefully won't freezing rain tonight. It was supposed to. So I guess winter has begun for us.
How much snow did you get?
Probably 6 inches or so. We were supposed to get upwards of a foot. But fortunately it stayed south like the last couple of storms. But when you live in Pennsylvania, I guess you get used to it.
Well, I've been seeing a lot of pictures on Facebook up Maryland, New Jersey, that area that really got hit hard. Yes. And to follow that, a lot of questions about, I can't ship my item. My mailman didn't come. We had so much snow. And just a note to the listeners, when these weather events happen, usually eBay will say, they'll give you a grace period. They know, you're not going to be penalized. If you have any questions, go to eBay for Business on Facebook and talk to someone there. Don't call the customer service number. They don't know anything. Talk to a person on eBay for Business, and they will give you information, instructions, whatever. So when you get hit hard with weather, tornado, ice storm, blizzard, whatever, you get a pass on that.
Yes, they have been very gracious in the past. Fortunately, like I said, we weren't hit that hard this time, but I don't want to get a ding on my record. So there's been times in the past that I do send a message to eBay for Business on the marketplace on Messenger, right, and they immediately respond. I would say I've not had to wait more than 10, 15 minutes, and they've been extremely helpful with all of my issues.
Well, one good thing that came out of 2020 and COVID was that eBay for Business had been on Facebook a while, but they really transitioned their help to the Facebook page rather than calling customer service, because really when you call that customer service, they're reading scripts. They don't know, or one person will tell you one thing and then you call back and somebody tells you something different. So it is more reliable, more accessible. They're more responsive. through Facebook. And even if you're not a Facebook person, just open an account for that reason only. You don't have to interact and put your picture on there and tell your life story. Just that's where the people are. So that's why eBay did it.
I agree. And I'm very thankful for that page. And it has definitely come in handy when I needed their help. So
yeah, I
great
find
advice.
them very responsive and knowledgeable. And if they don't know, they'll tell you they don't know and they'll get back to you.
Yes, and that has happened before. I had a couple of issues with returns and questions, and they did say that rather than give me a response that they're not 100% certain on, they would look into it, because I always tend to have the strangest questions, and they did come back with an answer. So yeah, it was great.
Or they'll refer you somewhere. So just not really putting in a plug for them, but personally, they've helped me. That's where you should go now. I mean, things change on eBay, and really that customer service number is great for if you've had interaction with the buyer and they can look at your account, they can look at the buyer's account, and they can, do certain things. But I prefer eBay for Business on Facebook. Okay, enough for that commercial. Let's move on to how you got started on eBay.
So in 1998, I graduated college in 1997 with a degree in economics and psychology. Didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was working at a company doing collections. It was an entry-level position, living in an apartment by myself, and I was trying to make ends meet. I got a phone call from my brother saying, "Have you ever heard of eBay?" And I had never heard of it. And this was 1998. And I had a computer with a dial-up, and it took me a very long time to find out what address to type in because the internet wasn't what the internet is now. And I found eBay, and I posted one of my very first items, which was a J. Crew sweatshirt that I had from college, and it sold for maybe $5.99. And I didn't have any shipping, and I ended up driving to the post office, having to pay the shipping myself. Obviously I couldn't scan anything, and I didn't even know what a tracking number was. They gave me a receipt, and it was a disaster. The person received the item and claimed it wasn't what they wanted, and so they needed to return the item, and I had to pay them to return the item. And that's how I got started. It wasn't a great start. It was a tragic, awful start. But that's my first eBay story. I don't know why I continued, but here I am.
Well, you saw that this works. People buy stuff on the internet without knowing who you are. And if you could do it one time, you can do it a million times.
And I think that's exactly it, was that I started researching and looking at what was selling. And I started going to thrift stores. And at the time, that's before thrift stores started their own eBay pages and knowing what things were. And I was finding Gucci's and Louis Vuittons and things for $1. And then I just got hooked because it paid my rent. And then it started paying my electric bill for me. And soon after that, I realized that I didn't have to work as many hours at my crappy job. And I started relying more on eBay income. So yeah, you're right.
I just love those moments when the light bulb goes on and you see the opportunity, because every single entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur, had that moment, when Ray Kroc decided, oh, we could sell hamburgers everywhere. We could have these stores everywhere. I love those stories where somebody sees that opportunity, even though you didn't have a great start. It's like, okay, this is possible. What can I do with this? And that's really the mindset it takes to be an entrepreneur, because you have to keep doing that over and over again. When something doesn't work anymore, okay, well, what is working? Let's do more of that. So, you had that spark where you're like, how far could I go with this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you're young and you're starting out at a company, you're not sure what you want to do with your life. A lot of my friends were continuing with their MBA, their PhD. I didn't want a life of being a professional student for the rest of my life. So, and I didn't know anyone who was on eBay, and I didn't want to tell anyone. It was my big secret. And how can I go out at night and always bring $100 with me when my friends were bringing maybe 10? Well, because I had eBay in my back pocket. Not that I wanted to tell anyone, because to me it was still, I didn't want to share.
So you didn't want to share because you thought they wouldn't understand, or you didn't want more people doing it to compete with you?
I don't like competition. I mean, I understand that's what it's all about. Even now, when I see a lot of the local resellers at rummage sales and I watch their YouTube videos, I'm afraid to talk to them. I don't want them to see what I'm buying. I don't know. I guess it's a personal thing for me.
I think everybody feels that at first, because when I started, which was 2003, so 5 years after you, people didn't understand it. They thought, why would you do that? Go to all these dirty thrift stores.
Yeah.
My sister used to say, oh, did you do that thing you do where you go buy things at those disgusting stores and resell it? And I'm like, yep, did that today. And I'm gonna
I made $500. So
right. And so you went to your crappy job with your hateful boss and stupid coworkers, and I didn't have to do that.
You got me beat.
At first it was, people just didn't understand. And I had the vision to say, this is coming, because the internet was ramping up and there were more and more thrift stores being built. And I just had that vision, like, this is going to be a thing, and I'm going to start doing it now. I'm going to be an early adopter and start doing it now. But nobody around me understood it. And they're like, why would you do this? You have a college degree. You worked these jobs. And I'm like, yeah. And you know what else? I got let go from those jobs because I was the newest one, or last hired, or part-time, because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So I was part-time. I was always the first let go. It was never about performance, ability, anything. I was just the first on the chopping block. So I was like, I didn't want that to happen anymore. I got sick of that. So then it became, wow, this is so profitable and fun and unbelievable. I'm not telling anybody.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, the point that I got to, is that it is fun. And I do share I try to be excited, and I try to share my excitement. And there are those that are excited. And like you said, there are those that they don't get it. They don't understand why I can pick up an item that looks like a dirty piece of trash and sell it for $500. It doesn't register with them. I almost feel like it's a different part of thinking. It's a different frame of mind, and not everyone has it. May have to grow it, if that makes any sense. I think
part of it, based on the people I've interacted with that don't get it, they're not risk takers. They want to go to their 9-to-5 job. They want that paycheck every 2 weeks. They want their benefits, and they're never going to step out of that because they don't have the vision we have. Right. And that's speaking to everyone listening. If you're listening to this podcast, you have that vision because you love eBay. So I have another sister who's like that. She's all about security, consistency, doesn't want anything unknown in her life. And that's the exciting part for me, is the unknown. It's like, ooh, I found a blanket the other day for $2, and it was a Beatrix Potter, the satin trimmed, from, it was the same pattern my children had. I did Beatrix Potter in their nursery. So it's the yellow with Peter Rabbit, all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I've sold that before. I got home and looked it up, and the last one like it sold for $150 because it's now collectible. And,
vintage.
Right. And vintage. And it was practically brand new. So, we see things like that. And so you're pleasantly surprised sometimes when you get home, and other times you're like, well, that goes back in the redonate. I'm not even going to list it because I was wrong. But there's a lot of people out there that are very linear thinkers, and they just aren't ever going to take that kind of risk. And is it a risk spending $2? No, but the risk is building your life around that stream of income and, as your primary way to earn a living, as a lot of eBayers do. And it's just without the vision, it's very scary. A lot of people just are never going to do it.
And I get that. I mean, my husband's a professional firefighter, so he has the steady income. He has the benefits. And when the kids were small, and I would stay home with them, he was bringing in the steady income. So I did have that comfort, and not everyone has that. And that's why I was able to stay home and sell on eBay. I even opened a store once. I tried that and it was difficult. My daughter was 2 and screamed the whole time, so it didn't work.
Like a brick and mortar store?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We bought a property actually very close to Lehigh University, and converted the one half of the house that used to be, it was an upholstery shop, and we converted it into a thrift store. And I would try to sell at my store, and I would also try to sell on eBay at the same time and take care of my newborn daughter. It didn't work. That was the year 2003. My daughter was born in 2002. It was, I think, too new for people, didn't understand. It was confusing. They didn't understand why I was charging money for things that were donated to me, even though the Salvation Army does it and the Goodwill does it.
That's just wrong.
Yeah. How can you charge? Somebody donated this to you. Well, okay. So it didn't work. We did try it for about a year. But I've always been selling on eBay more than maybe a month, where I've just kind of not listed, just let my items sit. And it's been good mentally to do that. And I still go on vacation, and I, do everything that you would do with a regular business with income. I just take eBay with me now, because there weren't mobile phones the way I remember my first BlackBerry and having to type in every little, and the screen was real small, or I would just on a whim buy whatever. So things have really changed.
Yeah, we have a lot of technology on our side now.
For sure.
Going back to your physical brick and mortar store, you're really just a victim of whoever walks in, the foot traffic. And on eBay, it's unlimited because new people come every day. So I have never tried that before. I've tried my own website selling things. And when I was doing my health and beauty business on eBay UK and selling like stuff from Costco and all that, because they didn't have all that stuff over there, which listeners, that fizzled out when the exchange rate dropped and it just didn't work anymore.
Well, I get where you're coming from. Experimenting and trying different things, and to get that income is probably what you did as well. I'll try this.
Right. So what happened is I started a website with just those items for my repeat buyers. And I put a note in their package and say, you can get this here, lower price because there's no fees. And I set up a website with a shopping cart and did all that stuff. This was like 2008, maybe. And every single person said, I love buying from you. Thank you so much for these products. I just feel better doing it through eBay, having that third party involvement, doing it through PayPal in case something goes wrong, I can file a claim. And as much as they trusted me, they just still wanted to buy on eBay. And I thought, okay, that is a very valid point. It's not really about me. It's about the system, and they trust the system.
Yes,
so
absolutely. It does. And it does make a difference.
So maybe your brick and mortar store, that might've been part of it the internet was so new that eBay wasn't huge back then, but it's, you might be open and nobody comes in that day, and you still have to pay rent and electricity and employees and whatever you've got, your expenses.
Yes. Yeah. And that was big. The overhead, it was really tough. And to make sure that my door was open and I was there. And then, you have the people that would just come in and talk and wanted a therapist. So I would chat.
All the tax considerations. You have more tax work because you have this physical business with expenses and, real estate issues and all that stuff. And while, yes, we still pay taxes on our eBay sales, it's so much more streamlined now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the amount of preparation, and especially when my kids were smaller, my they're now 19 and almost 17. But when they were smaller and I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old and I was trying to do all of my own taxes, we do have an accountant, but I would need to prepare. So, okay, well, my toddler just chewed the paper and, crazy things happening. It was a lot. And I am thankful that I have probably a few hours worth of tax preparation now versus weeks. And so, yes, it definitely changed things when I closed the storefront.
Right. And then when eBay, well, I guess it was more PayPal, started providing the 1099s years ago,
Right.
they didn't do that at first. You had to figure all that out.
Every single individual sale in Excel spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, those were the days.
Yeah. And so now it's so much more streamlined, and we've got managed payments, and PayPal's been separated pretty much from eBay. Unless you use it as your backup funding for printing shipping, which I've not had that happen. So
I think it's there as an option, but
yeah, but as much as people complain about having to pay taxes, it's like, but it is so much easier than it used to be. So, and it's not eBay, it's the IRS. eBay doesn't want to get involved, but they have to.
Well,
so
I mean, if you have an income, you should pay income tax. I mean,
right.
But it's very difficult. I understand where people are coming from, but you are a business, and eBay's a business, and you're a business using eBay platform. So your responsibility as an American citizen, as a taxpayer, is to file taxes. Yeah, it sucks, and I don't like it, and more than anybody else. But that's all part of the business. And if you're not putting aside 30% or whatever your bracket may be, yeah, it's going to hit hard at the end of the year for sure. I get it. Well, I guess that's what people are afraid.
And for those listeners that are not on board and haven't heard, starting in 2023, the 1099s you get, the threshold is $600 in sales instead of the 20,000 and 200 transactions. And again, this is the IRS. They're doing it on all the online selling sites, Venmo, all those payment apps. This is the IRS wanting to get their hands on this money that is out there, and reselling online has just become so huge that, yeah, there's opportunity for them. So don't be mad at eBay that this is changing, because it's not eBay, it's the IRS.
When I first started, and I started filing taxes, and I had my store, my accountant didn't even know there was not even a code. He just had to type in, I think it was retail sales internet. It didn't even have a code. Now it's eBay has its own code. I don't know how. I
agree. I started going to a CPA in, I think, 2009. I did my own taxes for the first 6 years, and then some things changed.
Brave.
Well, then some things changed. I got into the coaching, and I had all these different streams of income, and it was just like my head was about to explode. So that's when I went to a CPA and all that. But there was no code. Oh. They had to figure out how to do it. Yes. And now, all these years later, pretty much every CPA has experience with online selling on your taxes. It was, again, we were early adopters. There wasn't a system yet, but it finally evolved. So anyway, enough boring tax talk.
No one wants to talk about money.
Yeah, I told you that the conversation would just organically go different places. But what the listeners want to hear is about items that you've sold. So if you could tell us some stories about some of the higher dollar items you sold, where you found them, how much you paid. Sellers love hearing this, because if it happened to one person, it can happen to others. So you've already done it. It can be repeated.
Okay. I know we had touched base on a little bit. You kind of gave me a heads up, and I thought about it for a while, because there are so many cool things. And my dad, who passed 2 years ago, he was in the farm machinery business. So he did a little bit of auctioning and those kinds of things. And he always said his advice was, and that's what keeps you looking.
Wait,
So
he was in the what was that? He was in
farm machinery. So he was
farm
retired.
machinery.
Yep.
Okay, like farm
Yep.
auctions.
Yes. So he would
Okay.
go and buy something for $1 and sell it for a few hundred. And that's what I didn't even know that's what he did. I was a kid. But once I started doing eBay, he said, I'd come home and tell him these stories and he'd say, well, that's what keeps you looking. So it's true. I guess my best and biggest, most exciting sale ever happened very, very early on in the eBay world. It was before best offer. It was before fixed price. So it's when you had to auction something, you could put a reserve on it. I believe you could do a buy it now. Again, this I don't remember, but I know things have evolved so far since this, because I remember this was a big sale for me. So I remember my daughter and son being in the room with me. So they were very, very little. This was before preschool. So I'm going to say 2004, 5-ish. I went to a rummage sale, and I try to scope out rummage sales that are not necessarily in the best parts of town, just due to the fact that you find a lot more vintage and you have lower prices. So I've been to the hoity-toity rummage sales. I can't afford them. I can't afford what they're asking. And,
Well, that is a very good point, because in Atlanta, there's some pretty affluent areas, and I have tried that off and on, going to those estate sales in Buckhead and Sandy Springs and Marietta and those high dollar neighborhoods. And yeah, the stuff's priced too high, but
Right.
you go to some junky looking
dirty
yard sale on a back road, head to the country, and you see all this stuff spread out over their yard. And that's where you find the vintage Tupperware and the vintage Pyrex and the mid-century modern stuff. And they don't even know it's worth anything. Everyone knows that, a Coach handbag is worth something. Let's put $50 on it. Or
now. Yeah,
these funny looking brass bookends or the teak wood stuff, they don't know. They don't know.
Exactly. And especially when you go to, and not that I would ever take advantage of a church, but you go to a church rummage sale and the clothing is piled so high you can barely reach the top, which is where I got this really cool item from. Everything was 25 cents, be it shoes, clothing, purses. And actually the first thing I hit are the shoes, and then I usually hit the handbags. And so I was rummaging through the table of men's clothing, and I came across a sweatshirt with a hood. However, the hood looked like it was an afterthought. So the sweatshirt was made as a crew neck, and then there was a hood sewn on it. And this thing was dirty, and it had stains, and it had holes, and it had no tags, no labels, no nothing. It smelled bad, but it was 25 cents. And I thought, okay. And I didn't even know what to call this sweatshirt. So I bring it home. I take pictures. I listed it on eBay, starting bid of $9.99. Always $9.99 is my number. That's what I start things at. And immediately within moments, I got a message from a vintage store owner in New York City saying, will you take $1,000? Well, I almost fainted, because it would take me a month to have sales equaling $1,000, especially at that point, because
my first thought would be, is this real? Are they really going to pay that? Is this a scam? What's going to happen?
Literally.
I would be very skeptical.
Yes. All those things went through my mind. My husband said, block him. He's fraudulent.
Your husband, the firefighter, he put that fire right out.
Yeah. He's like, this is crazy. They're going to come to the house and try to kill you. I mean, like, it was all these. So, So I ignored him. And I also know that at the time there wasn't best offer, and you can't sell things outside of eBay. I'm aware of all of the rules. So I ignored him, and I received about 15 to 20 messages ranging from $300 all the way up to, say, I think at the top was 800. His was the highest of 1,000. And I had no idea why people wanted this dirty, ugly, holes, stains, stinky sweatshirt. Apparently it was manufactured, made before like mass production of sweatshirts. And I don't really understand it. I want to say it was handmade. It was all stitched together with individual panels, including the hood. It was from the 1920s to 1930s. And there weren't sweatshirts during that time. Like, you know, the men dressed with the suits and it was fancy. So this was a sweatshirt, pre-sweatshirt. And I still don't understand it. But I ended up taking the guy's $1,000 offer. I think I did a private auction for him. And it was $999.99 was, I think, what I put as for the buy it now. And he paid and I sent it to him and everything was great. And he sent me a picture of his store, of it being displayed in his store in New York City. So that was the coolest thing that ever happened. And I still don't really understand. And I've never found another sweatshirt like it. And it was very confusing to me, but they all wanted it. So I knew it was worth something. And of course, my husband now, you know, after the fact, is like, well, you should have held out for 2,000 or.
Yeah, we all do that.
So,
We all do that. Oh, I should have done an auction. Oh, you know, you just make the best decision you can with the information you have in that moment. Because 5 minutes later, you might have more information, but your decision's already made. So you can't, that's just life. You just can't, you can't know everything all the time. You just do the best you can and keep going.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I did at the time. And I'm happy. Like I said, you know, my whole philosophy is quick nickel, slow dime. I would rather take $1,000 now than, you know, let it sit or wait or who knows, just it's out of my house. I can't lose it. So
and there's always more stuff to find. You know, at this very moment, someone is donating something to Goodwill that I'm going to find later this week. And it's just, it never stops. It's just always going in the background. So that's why I don't keep death piles, because I don't have to. I just can always find stuff. And so how many things do you have in your store now?
Not many. I think maybe 250. Not many. I list as much as I can handle. So I know everyone's different, and other resellers may have 7,000 and some may have 50, but my comfort level is between 200 and 300. That's where I'm comfortable. So you have to do it for you.
That's very interesting, because a lot of the people who post on the $100 sales, the high dollar sales, they don't keep much in their store. So I'm trying to think of a name for these people. It's like the cream of the crop eBayers that they just kind of go through and skim at thrift stores, garage sales, and they just skim for the high dollar items and focus on those. I mean, that takes a lot of discipline. It's very hard. And I'm guilty of picking up those things. Oh, I just sold one of those. I could sell that again, but you know, it was $20. But you know, that $2 blanket that sells for 150, that's the stuff I like. That's the profit margins I like. So it is interesting to see that a lot of people that have come on these podcasts, and I say, how many things do you have in your store? And, you know, it's 300 or less. It's not, you don't have to have thousands of items. Some sellers just like to do it that way, and that's perfectly fine. It's just all about your personal preference. But I know a lot of information on the internet, YouTube is preaching more items, you know, list as much as you can, as fast as you can, have this huge stockpile, get a storage unit, you know, fill up your basement. And it's really not necessary. You don't have to do it that way.
If it works for you, I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Go for it. That's great.
Right.
I don't think I'm that organized in my thoughts or with my house at all. We actually built an addition on our house, and I have a whole eBay room. And if my eBay room is full, I buy no more. Like it's been 20 years that we've been here. And I guess you have to set a limit. And you're right. I go to stores, I'll have a big pile at a yard sale, and I go through it, and I'm only buying these 5 things, because if it doesn't sell for, let's say, I don't pay more than $1 or $2 for an item. So if it doesn't sell for $20 and up, in completed, I don't even look at it. I can't, it's not worth my time. So what is my time worth? It's worth $20 or more per, profit per item. And that's kind of where I gauge things. And even then, if there are 50 things that are $20 or more, I go through them and pick the $100 or more items and only go home with 5 instead of 50. It sounds like you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I've transitioned to over the years. For a while, I was trying to get to 1,000 items, and I could never get there. Maybe 700 was the highest amount I'd ever had, but I just decided from a minimalist standpoint, and it's kind of, I've transitioned my whole life this way. It's just less is more for me. It's so much inventory is very emotionally draining for me. It's just, I look at it and I feel overwhelmed, and that's just me. When I go grocery shopping, I don't buy that much. I buy enough for a week and consume it and then go get more. And it's just, that's how I live. But nothing against people that want thousands of items. If that works for you, that's fantastic. My problem is, like, I'll go shopping, I'll buy 20 or 30 things. I cannot go again until those things are listed, because all I'm thinking about is I've spent my time and my money choosing those items and nobody can buy them. So if I list them and then I go shopping, those things can be selling while I'm finding more stuff. So it's a personal thing. I just can't let stuff accumulate if people can't buy it, because it could sell in 5 minutes.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then you have, I'm the same way. The stuff I got from the rummage sale yesterday, I had to immediately come home. I mean, I went through it and there were some things that I thought would sell a little higher, but they weren't even really worth my time to list when I did get home. So they went in the donate pile, and I got my things listed, and that now I'm free. Now today, if I want to do something else today, I can do something else today. And I'm the same way, because why keep it sitting in a pile? It's not making you any money sitting there. And that's, I think that comes from when I was a single mom. I was just getting into eBay and I didn't have the money. I was like, this stuff needs to be listed before I can go, because that will generate income for me to buy more stuff. So I was very disciplined about getting things listed, because, money was tight back then as a single mom with a home business that a lot of people didn't understand. And my goal was to be financially independent and never get behind on my bills and keep my credit score up and all that kind of stuff. And so in the early days, I had to be very disciplined. So I think trained yourself.
It's just a habit. Yeah.
No, I get it. And mine is a lot of it because I think I would probably be a hoarder. I don't know. Like, I have that personality where if I didn't immediately get it listed, it would sit, and I know me. And so I have no choice. I have to get it listed, because I purposely don't have the space to let it sit. I don't have that. All of mine is now organized in totes with letters, and there's no other room. So I have no choice unless I'm keeping it, because I do keep some stuff.
Yeah, that happens. And then 2 years later, I can sell that.
Oh, worth something. Absolutely.
Yeah, I went through my closet. I do it about twice a year. I'll go through my closet, which I only buy clothing for myself at thrift stores anyway. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not wearing that. I'll sell that. I don't really like the way that fits. I'll sell that. And it's just a constant, my closet's like a revolving rack. It's just always changing, but it's like I'm renting my clothes. And then I end up selling them for 10 times more than I bought them for. And it's an income center. So
yeah, no, I get it. I get it, because I'll find something good that I like and I wear it and I'm done with it. And well, some things turn out to be even higher dollar than I thought they would. I never even look them up to see what they're worth until I want to get rid of them. And I think, oh dear, I can't put this in the donation pile. This is worth $30 for a shirt that I probably paid $25 for.
And you've
I'm
been
a big,
wearing for 6 months. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I get tired of it.
Right.
I do thrift stores, but I don't do a lot of thrift stores around here. I do drive to Montgomery County, like the Philly area for the bins, because it's so cheap. And other than that, the thrift stores around here are priced very high, other than the church thrift stores and things. And I do some thrift store, but it it doesn't seem to be a good return on my investment lately. Not that I don't go to them, and not that I don't keep looking, because I'm never going to give up, but I do have better luck with rummage sales, mostly rummage sales. Yard
Yeah,
sales,
and I
people
think
but
those garage sales, rummage sales, it's just about getting rid of stuff.
yeah.
Back to your church sales, I've been to a few, and there's some I go to every year. It's an annual thing, and it's an event for the church. It's the ladies just love working it, and the men that build the displays and the shelves and all that stuff out in the yard, and it's an event, and they don't really care about the individual items. One time at a church thrift store, I found a bunch of Lennox Christmas figurines, and they had $5 on them, and I ended up selling each one for about 80.
Yeah,
And
I bet.
so they have all this stuff set up, and they don't want to have to drag it all back in and donate it. So they'll make deals, and you just go up to them with a basket of stuff and like, how much for all this? And so their motivation is different than like a brick and mortar thrift store, consignment store. It's like, oh, we have all this stuff. Our church members have donated all year. It's all out on the lawn. We got to get rid of it.
Yeah. And that's actually, I have been in charge of my son's in Eagle Scout, and I've been in charge of our Boy Scout rummage sale since my son's been 5. Just because we would get so many donations, we had a clothing bin, and we used to sell it by the weight. And then I said, this is ridiculous. Let's, do a rummage sale. And we did. And that was our primary source of income. We never charged any prices. We just threw the stuff on the lawn, put a tarp up in case it rained, and people would give, $20 for one of the chocolate chip cookies that one of the moms made. And then they'd also give, 5 cents for a carload of stuff. And so, but it was all about getting rid of the stuff and making some money for the kids. And I guess that's why I enjoy going to rummage sales, and also having them. Sent 10 kids to camp this past year with the money that we made. So I'm sure churches are doing the same thing. They pay their bills with the rummage sale money. So yeah, I kind of look at it that way.
Yeah. And it's an event. They have a grills going with hamburgers and hot dogs, and they're selling refreshments and all that. So it's fun. Speaking to prices though, I was in Goodwill the other day, and I don't know what's going on with their pricing system, but I picked up something that probably would have been $1 anywhere else, and it said $8. And I literally said out loud, just $8. What are you kidding me? I'm by myself in the store, and I wasn't talking to anybody, but the people around me looked at me. They're like, "Yeah, what's going on with this?"
They probably feel the same, but no one wants to.
It was just some dumb little tchotchke thing that looked like, it could have been Lennox or, one of those brands you look for, but I don't know. Sometimes their pricing is just so inconsistent. Maybe it has to do with who's pricing stuff that day. But yeah, it's like, I'm not buying that dumb little thing for $8.
Yeah. Yes. And you are right. Cause then, you see the stuff that they do. I think it was the Goodwill. And I was going to say Salvation Army, but it was the Goodwill, where I had gotten an entire, I collect the Longaberger pottery, like the plates and cups and all that. I got the entire set, service for 10 of the large plates, small plates, medium bowls, and small bowls for $99. So to me, that was a huge bargain. And, other times, like you said, you pick up one tiny little thing that it's worthless. It's probably from the Dollar Tree, and they price it astronomically. So yeah, you're right. It doesn't really make any sense.
And then I go through the plush, and I found something the other day that I priced at $90 because it was vintage. Oh, it was that Eden, EDEN toys.
Yes.
and it was a vintage one. And it was just this little, maybe 5-inch tall baby doll. It was tiny. It was terry cloth. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to be something. And I priced it at 99, I think, but it was 50 cents. So it's just all about what, they're not going to price plush at $20.
You're right. Well, you're right. You're right.
Well, where I am, because there's so much of it. The bigger ones, like the jumbos, they put $4 on those.
Right. Yeah.
But just the little ones that sink to the bottom that end up being your most valuable ones.
You're right.
$1. So it's just, you have to learn what they are missing.
Right. Not go for the obvious. And that's great advice for anybody that's listening. You're right. Don't go for the obvious. Don't go for the Lennox. That's where I actually think I found that pattern from your BOLO book. And I think it was 25 cents, and I sold it for $49.99 within hours.
Oh, that was you. Right. You said you had just seen it, and then you saw it later that day.
Yeah. And you were jealous. I get it.
Well, I remember that was a big thing back in the early 90s, and all the little girls' dresses, and there was accessories. That and Mary Englebright were big at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. Same kind of style. So,
right.
I mean, you can think things like that. Who would ever think to look through a box of patterns at the Goodwill? Probably nobody. But thanks to your book, I did. And look what I found.
Well,
so now
I'm glad that helped you. Good find. So let's move on to some other high dollar items you've sold, if you can remember.
Sure. I mean, okay. I'll start with a pair of overalls, again, at a dirty little church thrift store. It was actually in a basement, and the lighting was terrible. And I kept sneezing because this was pre-COVID, so no masks, very dusty. And I could tell that a farmer had either donated, died. It was a lot of farmer type clothing because my dad was a farmer. So that's what I recognized. So tons and tons of like the chambray sanforized denim, which I did well on. Those were, I literally bought everything I could find. You're
what was that
25
word
cents
you just used?
Chambray or sanforized?
Sanforized?
Yes. SANFORIZED.
I've never heard that. What does that mean?
Well, it's the process that they use to put the finish on the fabric. It's probably not been used since the 1960s. A lot of the labels that you'll see, like the Big Yank or some of the other brands from back then, if they even had a brand, it would just say cotton sanforized. So it's like I want to say finish on the fabric, the tightness to the being woven. I don't know if that's making any sense. Okay. Google it, people.
Okay. But it is that is a vintage clothing cue.
Yeah.
If you see that.
Oh yes, for sure. You look for the horizontal buttonholes in the shirts because that's pre-1960. And so I knew all these things were old, and I knew they were worth something. The collars had been re-sewn back on. We have a lot of Amish and Mennonites in this area that keep redoing their clothing and fixing it over and over and over again. So I came across a pair of overalls. Again, they were very worn, very used, holes, but with the sleeves, not like so I guess it'd be coveralls because they had like sleeves.
Oh, right. Like the monkey suit type thing.
Yes. Yeah. So they were snaps that went all the way up. And the brand was Hercules, which was Sears, I believe. Sears and Roebuck, whatever it was before Sears, carried this brand, and it had the selvage along the inside of the leg seam, which I had learned. I always flip and look for the selvage, and sure enough, there it was. It was a red line. So I knew it was old. I knew it was worth something. I came home and took pictures. I literally laid them on my deck because they were big man size. And I put them at auction, started them at $9.99. This is back when my mom was helping me a lot with eBay. Retired, she was having fun with it. And it didn't really go up too much. And this was maybe, I want to say 2009 or 10. So I could have put a buy it now, but I didn't. But my mom used to like to watch people bid up my items and fight at the end. Now they have snipers and all that, but this is when people actually bid. And they ended up at $750 for the final bid, which was one of my other, I mean, that's a lot of money. So when you're paying 25 cents for something and they sold for $750, I actually printed out and I have it like hanging in my eBay room because I didn't do the sweatshirt. I don't even think I had a printer. Like it was so long ago.
Back then when you didn't need one.
I didn't. I would handwrite my labels and take them to the post office. But I did print the overalls, and also because I wanted to be able to refer back to it and remember, what are you looking for? So that was a big seller for me. I made a lot of money off of whoever's clothing that was. Very, very collectible. And it was a buyer from Japan, ironically.
Wow.
Yeah. So
and back in the day, sending something to Japan was a hurdle. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank God for the eBay global shipping. I don't know if I would sell a lot of the things that I do sell. If they were overseas and I had to print the label myself, it was always a fiasco. And I actually had everything checked that I didn't even want to sell internationally, but thank goodness they have it, because a lot of the stuff sells that I don't think would sell to the US. So I don't know if you've experienced that, but it's,
oh yeah, I don't use the global shipping. I've never used it because I've just always done it myself. And now the eBay Standard International has that eBay guarantee behind it where, if it's lost, it has the insurance and it goes up to 66 pounds. So it's much cheaper for the buyer. So you can offer both the standard and global and see which one they pick. But I sell a lot of items internationally. Plush, it's very strange how they like the plush. It's like, it's, collectibles go to Japan. Those hidden Mickey bears used to be a big thing going to Japan all the time. Yeah. And it's just interesting to see what goes to different countries. Because when I was doing that health and beauty business, it seemed like facial products like Olay cream and serums and all that stuff, Italy and Spain, they would always go there. And then things for dry skin, especially chapstick and lip, like the Abreve and all the lip stuff, United Kingdom, London, because it's so wet there all the time. It rains a lot. And so their skin's dried out. And so lip balm was a huge thing going to the United Kingdom. And then Korea, they would buy the Listerine breath strips and all this
those are popular
breath stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And sun protection and swimwear to Australia.
Well, I mean, that does make sense. But don't they have things in those countries? You want to ask yourself that.
Well, I guess they don't have it maybe as the quality that we have it or the quantity. Maybe they have it, but it's hard to find, or the price. It's very expensive. It's cheaper for them to buy 3 tubes of something and have it go in a flat rate mailer than to buy in their own store. Okay. It might be too expensive. And also United Kingdom and a lot of countries over in Europe have that healthcare plan where it doesn't, like, you have to have a prescription for things such as Benadryl and toothpaste with peroxide in it and all these products that we just have over the counter. What turned me on to that was Desitin, baby rash ointment. I started selling that. It sold like crazy to Europe because that's something you had to have a prescription for. So your baby screaming, has this terrible diaper rash. You have to get an appointment with a doctor, wait for that, and then get a prescription for this. And it could be days or weeks. And I was very compassionate about the things they needed to relieve pain, Bengay and Icy Hot and all that kind of stuff. These things that helped reduce their pain. That's what got me into that whole healthcare business, health product business. I just felt so bad for these people, and especially children that eczema and all these skin problems. And it's like, they can't just go to the store like we can and just buy this. They have to wait.
That's crazy. And they're okay importing it as long as, but you can't, it doesn't make any sense. I have a friend who is from Russia, and she can go on the shelves in Russia when she goes back home and buy antibiotic right off the shelf. But like you said, ridiculous why you need a prescription for these other things that you would think you wouldn't need one for. I would think you'd need a prescription for an antibiotic. That could be dangerous. Desitin could not be dangerous.
I don't know, but it was like eardrops and eye drops and all these things that we just take for granted for, relieving pain. People in other countries can't just go get them like we can. So that was
a market for you.
That was like the cornerstone of that whole business was, what can I provide that they can't get, but that they need? So anyway, back to the international shipping. I learned a lot doing that business. So
you just taught me something. So I didn't know any of that. So thank you.
Yeah. So when you are in the grocery store, always look at the clearance rack, because there could be things that you can.
Thank you for the bleach pen idea.
Oh, did you sell some bleach pens?
I did.
Oh,
my mom, I take her to this tiny little store in her area. And it's where the floors creak, and it's old. It's one of those, I think they type it in individually in the cash register. They don't even scan things. And they had two, I want to say cases, but 2 8-packs of them sitting up on their top shelf, and they were dusty. And I thought, woo, score. They were $1.99 a piece. So I did very well with them. Thank you. Paid my grocery bill for the week.
Did you sell them in a lot or individually?
I did, actually. I had priced them, again, quick nickel, slow dime. I think I got $100 for each set. And so to me, that was profitable enough. I was very happy with it. I was rid of them within an hour, and somebody else was very happy. So again, I could have probably sold each one for $40, which some people do. But the market started to get a little saturated with them. There were quite a few listings. The sell-through rate wasn't great with individuals, but it did well with lots of them. So I did it quickly. I got them out the door, and it was, I think, the day after you posted that information.
Well, you said the market got saturated, probably because of me and my big mouth.
That's why I did it real quick.
But people made money. How many did you put in a lot?
It was the 8-pack. It was
8. So $16.
Yeah.
$16 investment to make 100 in just a few minutes. That's worth it. Yeah.
The fees and that's the other thing is the fees. I felt like by the time I pay all the fees, because you got to pay the fees on the shipping now and everything, by the time all was said and done, I feel like I had a higher profit rate by lotting them together.
Right.
And so it was just easier for me. And I was rid of them. They were out of my house. I didn't have to look at them anymore. And so thank you for that. That was a big seller.
Well, you took action. So that's the key to any of this is follow through, taking action, remembering, because there's all kinds of stuff out there that's profitable. It's just, that's why I put that book together. It's hard for me to remember what to look for in these different sections because there's just so much information.
It's true. That's very true. And actually leading into one of my other really big items was the Holt Howard pixie elf things. I hadn't seen Holt Howard in years. I used to see it all the time. It's like, they're like the big eyes, whatever they're called.
Okay. So listeners, she's saying Holt, Holt, Howard.
Yep.
And they make dolls.
There's a word, figurines.
Okay.
From the, I believe, 60s. And it's Japan, and there's a word for it where they have like the big eyes. And I hadn't seen them in years and years and years since a lot of the thrift stores have been putting, shop Goodwill. Goodwill puts their good things on Goodwill. And I know my local thrift store, the owner drives a Rolls Royce and he puts his stuff on eBay. So it's hard to find good things. And these I actually got at a rummage sale for like $25 and took them home right away and sold each one I only listed one at a time because I want people to think, well, this is in demand. There's only one of these. And so I sold it for $299 and $299. And then I emailed that buyer and said, hey, I have another one. Are you interested at the same price? Absolutely. So I relisted that private auction for just that buyer, and they bought both of them. So I was able to ship them together. So my 50-cent investment turned into like $600 that same night. But that was one of the names that was in the back of my mind. I haven't seen it in probably 15 years, 10 years. Because it's not out there. I don't know whether people are not giving them up, whether they're broken, they're not collectible anymore. I don't know, but that, like you say, memory, as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't been looking for these. Maybe I should have been looking for these. And it kind of started to ring a bell because I thought, oh, this is kind of cute. People like elves. They like pixies, that's collectible. And when I turned it over and saw the name, everything started to come back again. But it's hard to remember what sold. And, when you have thousands of sales, like you said about the blanket, you remembered selling one like that. And it's good that you remember that, but there's a lot of things I'm sure we don't remember that. Oh yeah, that's right. I did sell one of those. You don't realize until you see it again.
Right.
So.
Exactly. Yeah. And as you do this business longer and longer, you have more experience. And I tend to remember the things that don't sell. Like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. Like the Dansko shoes. Every time I find those, the bottoms are just, they
shredded.
Crack, they're disintegrated, and you have to do that bend and twist test to see if the soles are disintegrated. And every single pair I find are like that.
Yes. And I actually, so speaking of like eBay horror stories, I had a girl message me, a nurse, who bought a pair from me, and she wore them to work, and they like fell apart as she's walking, as she's at work. They totally fell apart. She mailed back like the shredded, disintegrated soles. I actually ended up mailing them into Dansko. This was a long time ago. And they used to give you like a $50 credit on a new pair or whatever, which I sent to that girl because I felt horrible. I didn't even know that such a thing existed. The same thing with the Clark shoes. They crumble. I don't even know the word. Yeah. So she was so mad. I didn't make the shoe, but I'm clearly responsible because now I know. I twist them, I turn them, but yeah, that's the lesson learned right there.
Well, and I discovered those early on. And so now those older ones that are showing up in thrift stores are even worse because they're older. Yeah. And they change the way they make the soles. So now they're hard and they don't crumble. But those older ones that are made with whatever that spongy material is, like if it's been sitting in somebody's closet for 5 or 10 years, not being worn, they're not going to know, and they just donate them. And then we come along, and if you don't know that the older ones could possibly have that problem, you don't know to look for that. So that whole twist and bend test to see if they're cracked and crumbling. So I used to get so excited when I saw a pair of Danskos on the shelf, and now it's like, okay, let's see what condition they're in.
Yes, that's just something you pick up and you remember. I only remembered because I had a horror story, and I very rarely buy them now. I think I just sold a pair not too long ago, but they were super cute with a fringe, and they had like a very hard bottom. Like you said, like a different material, and I knew they were good. But other than that, I don't take a chance. And even if they have one scuff on them, people don't buy them. They want them in mint condition. So
unless they're using them for food service, like the black ones that are made with that oil resistant treatment on them. So if boiling sauce or whatever splatters on your feet, it's not going to go through your shoe. So if it is the specific food service kind, those can be good. But yeah, the other ones that are the fancy colors and swirls and sparkles and glitter, they want those in perfect condition.
Yeah. Well, of course, because they probably work in the medical profession and people look at their shoes. So.
Or they're just fashion. They just wear them for fun, The last question I ask my guests is, what advice would you have for people who are new to eBay or struggling?
Just one piece of advice. Okay. My only piece of advice to someone who is new to eBay or struggling with eBay would be research. Research, ask, find out, learn. Knowledge is key. Having a background and an understanding to what you're tackling and what you're jumping into or what you're already in and confused about will help you tremendously. It helped me, and I've given the advice for knowledge to my friends who have started out on eBay. That would be my advice. That's it. And have fun.
And now we have so much on social media. You've got YouTube comments, you've got Facebook groups where you can ask people. We didn't have that luxury back in the day. It was just sink or swim.
Yep.
See what sticks to the wall. Just try different things. And now you can actually, which is why we do the Money Making Mondays and the $100 threads, is you can find a person who's already doing what you want to do and do what they're doing.
Yes.
Find someone who's already successful and follow their methods and follow their advice and ask them questions, because people will answer you. They will help you.
Well, and I think that's one thing that has definitely changed for me, even not in person, because I'm still wary of talking to people in person about eBay, but on social media and especially on your Facebook page, I have met, I want to call them friends, Facebook friends. We've chatted, messaged people. I've learned so much and made so many friends all over the world through Facebook. And so thank you for your page, because it's what definitely I have grown so much from following you, following your podcast, following your pages, taking your courses. So again, learn, research, find out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And you're right. Just never stop learning. That's advice for all parts of your life.
Yeah, very true.
Well, thank you for joining us on this Saturday morning. And are you headed out to that rummage sale or not?
I am. It's actually over at 1. So I think I'll get some bargains now because it's almost 11:30. I'm thinking they're going to be saying, just give us whatever you want. So there are some things I had my eye on yesterday that I'm going to pick up today.
Excellent. Good plan. Well, thanks again for joining us, and we will see you on the Facebook group.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me, Amy. That was really fun. And a few side notes. When she was talking about the Holt Howard figurines, the words she was trying to recall were pixieware, Pixieware, because a lot of the Holt Howard items are pixies. And the other word is anthropomorphic, with the big eyes. That means something non-human having human characteristics. So you can Google that or even look on eBay for listings that have the word anthropomorphic. And finally, the sewing pattern she was referring to is on page 100 of the BOLO book. So students, you can pull out your BOLO book and turn to that page and find out more about that item that she found. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you learned something new. I sure did. And I'll be back next week with another fascinating guest. Have a profitable, productive, and fun day on eBay. Bye.